left, right.
Yo, what's up, and welcome to the newest episode of SipTalk. Today we are talking about common misconceptions. Some of these you might be familiar with, some of them you may have never heard before. I'm hoping we hit some of the ones you never heard before. We do get started talking about the recent fire in the Bronx, where they're saying either 17 or 19 are confirmed dead. The numbers changed a couple of times recently. On that note, for those of you who live in New York City and for those of you who live in apartment buildings, the fear of fire can be terrifying because you live amongst others and you're not the one entirely in control. So on that note, if you do live in an apartment building or a multifamily building, be aware of the fire plan. Be aware of whether or not the building is combustible or whether the building is fireproof. If you're stuck in your apartment and there is a fire, always a smart idea to stuff a towel under the door to stop the smoke from coming in, not to break your windows open because you can create a vacuum where the smoke will get sucked into the smoke, and the fire will get sucked into your apartment from the outside of the apartment. And if you do need to open a window, that again, rather than breaking it, you open the top of the window first to test it rather than the bottom of the window. This is Sip Talk. Grab a drink and enjoy.
Where's this going?
Cheers.
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 All right, that means we are live. Welcome to Sip Talk, episode 158. My name is Justin DiGiulio out of my basement in New Jersey, joined by James, the Bosniator Boswell, out of San Francisco?
San Diego.
San Diego. Oh, all right. James, the Bosniator Boswell, philosopher, accountifer, referee, bartender. A lot of out in San Diego. You at the discotheque over there?
That's how my brother has his kitchen decorated. So yeah,
You've got a lot of pulsating lights there behind you. It's quite the setup.
yeah, we're throwing a rave later.
Yeah, it's a unique look. So what brought you out to San Diego?
A plane.
Oh, who's driving?
Hopefully a professional pilot.
These are the people you want driving your plane. So last episode we were just talking about, like, if you had just the general public just seems to be going so fucking crazy these days, and if you had to pick somebody that you would feel comfortable piloting your plane, I wonder if people like look through the Twitter content, your Twitter comments, and like look if anybody's a pilot. Like, there's some fucking crazy people out there. These are not the people.
There's some crazy doctors and nurses.
Well, I mean, you're seeing that stuff with coronavirus right
Yeah.
now. But just think about this: like, you're a bus driver. I could accept that. Like, you might be a little crazy, and not I think driving a bus, very noble profession, especially if it's your career. You know the route. That's great. But I would say I would be more okay with a bus driver being a bit more crazy than someone piloting a plane. It's my 2 cents on that.
I'm going to cause a lot less damage.
You would definitely cause a lot less damage. I mean, you never know. You could pick up. You ever see the movie Speed? Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
Yeah, good movie. Good movie. Had to keep it over 50 miles an hour on the bus. Speed 1. I think Speed 2 was on a train. Either way. So look. So today we are going to talk about common misconceptions. I got a handful of them. Hoping we can expand on that. In the meantime, I want to talk, as always, a little current events. Have you heard about this fire in the Bronx?
Heard of it. Don't know any details.
Oh my God! It's so there's a building that caught on fire. I think it was like Sunday night in the Bronx, and supposedly 19 people died. They've reduced it to 17. They've got 17 confirmed dead. Very tragic, and there's a lot of outrage over this fire. Now, in the meantime, there was another fire like yesterday, and I think there were casualties, but it's gotten no press just because for whatever reason, the fire that happened before it has totally eclipsed it in media coverage, which is
kind of the issue that I have with this fire being so contentious. The reason this fire is so contentious is because the building had open violations. One. Now,
What were
I
the
don't know.
violations?
Oh, well, I got the actually I was going through the violations um, right before we got on air. So the Department of Buildings, let's see, a violation condition: outside communication, phone inside the car is not working. I don't know, probably like the buzzer or something in the entryway, but that one was resolved. Another one: elevator shall not operate on auto in the fire service phase. So there's an elevator issue that's been resolved. There's a handful of them and some fines. But the thing about, and I guarantee most of the
So it
people
was a
make,
privately operated building?
yeah, yeah. Now there was a lot of people on Section 8 and public assistance that were living in the building, but the building had open violations. Now, being a real estate agent in New York City, uh, it's very uncommon that I come across a building with no violations. It's very, very common that buildings have violations because, people just report things, and oftentimes they'll just report it by calling 311 rather than notifying the landlord. Now, when you have a building where you have hundreds of people that are living there, things get damaged. People complain. And it's not like the landlord is patrolling the building looking for violations. Usually somebody needs to make them aware of the violations. The problem is that most people don't notify the super or the building management. They just notify 311. So violations are very common in New York City. Um, I haven't done a full search of all the violations just because it takes a little while, but I have not found one. Oh, these violations are from like 2015, 18. The most recent ones look like they were resolved. One from March
So
of
it's a
last year.
relatively clean building then.
Yeah, let's see. The violations with open penalties. There's one, and I actually don't have. I don't have the details on that one. There's just a link to pay. So I don't know the open violation, um, but I guarantee the majority of people complaining about the open violations on this building didn't go and actually look what the violations were for. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm kind of tabling the violations because that's a normal thing. Now apparently there was a fire door, like a probably like a fire staircase door or something like that, that was open, and that's how the fire spread through the building. Now you said you don't know much about this. Do you know what started the fire?
I heard it was a space heater.
Correct. It was a space heater. So the majority of the contention is coming from a building that had open violations that someone was using, and because someone was using a space heater, they're saying that landlords are terrible and that the landlord had shut off the heat during the wintertime. Now, there's no record of the heat being shut off in the building, but they're saying that landlords, shut off the heat in the building and people freeze to death. Now, there's no reports of that happening here, but we do know that somebody was using a space heater and it probably fell over, or something like a curtain was leaning on it or something, which
That's
is actually
a specious argument though, because so at my house, sometimes my room gets a little bit cold, so sometimes I'll have a space heater in my house. My house has central heating.
Well,
And so,
hold on. Wait. Is this the house that you own?
Yes.
How dare you, James? How dare you, as a homeowner, enter yourself into this conversation? You're so entitled. You don't play any role. You know what? You need to keep to yourself, and you need to think about people who have less than you. It's obviously unfair for these people. How
What I'm saying
dare
is
you?
that I've got more than them, and I still use a space heater.
So actually, that's literally what you just said to me was one of the comments on the Twitter, in the Twitter sphere. Somebody saying, "Well, I own a house and I pay for the heating, but I like my office a little warmer than the rest of the family does, so I have a space heater under my desk." And then people are just attacking him, saying he was entitled, and he
He's
because he's a
trying to
homeowner.
identify with the people. He's saying it doesn't matter how much money you have. Like a space heater is irrespective of that. Sometimes you just want to be warmer in an area, and that's why you have a space heater.
I spent so much time trying to find the comment for this specific, basically, for this specific comment.
And that's
but
why
I couldn't.
Twitter is so terrible. Is it gives everybody a chance to voice an opinion, and most people should shut the fuck up.
Oh, it was so bad. It was it's just not fair that people can just say shit and just not be held accountable. The problem with people saying so much shit now is that nobody is being held accountable. I think, and I don't know what that is. I don't know what mechanism in our society now is kind of letting that fly, that people can throw so much shit and then the second somebody like turns a mirror or a spotlight on them, they just go, no, it wasn't me. I didn't, it didn't happen.
Well, the problem isn't that consequences aren't being enforced. It's that the entire system makes it so that consequences are unenforceable. It's so extraordinarily rare. Like, you can think about Trump getting kicked off Twitter. How far did he have to go to get kicked off Twitter? He needed to incite a terrorist coup.
Yeah, it's
that's how far you need to go to get kicked off of Twitter.
But I don't know, man. I just I had a long conversation today about the Twitter sphere and social media, and like what is the, and you and I kind of agree that there is no greater good. There are some positives. People can be interconnected, communication, things like that. But if I think we were both kind of on the side that social media is somewhat of a net negative, which is unfortunate.
You're understating my position.
Well, sure. I know you're not a fan of social media at all, but yeah, my thinking is there's a fire, and you can feel a little bit bad about it. That's a bad, bad thing. Lots of bad things happen in the world. Lots of bad things happen all day long in the news, and people are spending a lot less time focusing on those. So, a lot of bad things happen. You got to figure out how bad you want to feel, but you got to have a kind of equal distribution of sorrow when it comes to bad things happening, and to spend so much energy making such a big deal about this and then not about anything else, I think is ridiculous. And then also, why are you spending time on Twitter talking about how sorry you are and then attacking other people making comments? Just go donate some fucking toilet paper, bro.
Well, I think
some
the
food.
reason why you see attention on tragedies like this one is because they're relatable. A lot of people live in apartment buildings, and so they think this could happen to me, because all it takes is a careless neighbor to not pay attention to their space heater, and you lose all your stuff and possibly your life. And so that's why, like, certain tragedies get more attention than others, is, I would say, the relatability factor. That's why, like, and relatability, and also the amount of control that you have. So if I live in an apartment building and somebody sets their apartment on fire, I didn't have any control over that, but I'm suffering the consequences.
Yeah,
it's the same reason why a lot of people have a fear of flying, is because, one, a lot of people do it all the time, and two, once you're up in the air, you as a passenger have no control.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
It's an irrational fear, because flying is one of the safest things you can do.
Yeah, except that you have a member of the general public piloting the plane. So
no, it's not a member of the general public. You have to go through thousands of hours of training.
Sure, but you're still you're not military.
A lot of pilots are actually ex-military.
A lot, yes, true, very, very true. But now piloting planes is no longer as noble of a position as it once was.
Well, that's because airlines don't pay them well enough.
And that's because airlines don't pay them very much. And if you work for the post office and you go postal, and you work there for 20 years, what's saying you can't be a pilot and go, I don't know what the...
Well, there's a lot. There's actually, pilots go through pretty regular psychiatric and psychological evaluations. And about 7 years ago, there was actually a case of Lufthansa flight where the pilot was depressed and, like, lock the cabin doors and crash the plane into the Pyrenees Mountains.
No shit. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, I just have a feeling that with the direction our society is going, where we don't want people to be strong, we want people to be soft, we want to encourage them to cry. It's okay not to feel all right in the head. Like I think where
Yeah,
we're
that
going.
doesn't apply to pilots because, like in the Lufthansa case that I'm referencing, like that pilot had been going through psychiatric evaluations and actively hid them from his employer. So
Okay. Median annual wage for commercial pilots is 93,000. The
that's
lowest 10% earn less than 47,000, and the highest 10% earn more than 200,000.
yeah, it all depends on what kind of flights. If you're doing like short regional routes, you're not making very much money. If you're doing like transatlantic or
International, yeah. Yeah. So that's
and it's
that's
tough work.
it is tough work. You it's like you have to be paying attention. You stuck in. Think about this. Think about this. Commuting to work. If you get a long commute, that can be exhausting, right? They say the longer your commute, your people are more depressed. Basically, your quality, the higher the length of time for the commute, the lower quality of life. Now, a pilot, I would say, piloting a plane, just general airline travel, is some of the least comfortable travel.
And the cockpit's not big. If you ever look inside of one, like they don't have a lot of room to move around.
Yeah. So you're stuck on a plane. You're on there for 8 hours. You're on there for 3.5 hours. You're on there for 18 hours. That's got to
Well,
be rough, man. It's
for
you
like
don't
the
have
really long flights that are like 10 hours plus, they actually rotate pilots.
sure, but you're still stuck. It's not like you get to mingle with the general public, walk up and down the aisles. Like you get to step out of the cockpit and take a piss. They block it off with a food cart, which I always thought was not always thought, it's relatively new, kind of post 9/11, where when the pilot needs to use the bathroom, they block the bathroom off with the food cart. The pilot comes out. They do kind of this knocking game. Pilot comes out, takes a piss, comes out of the toilet, back into the.
Yeah, in the cases where the pilots rotate on those really long flights, they actually have a set of beds above the cabin.
I was not. How did you know that? I've never
Because
heard of that.
they'll have 4 pilots, and like the first 2 pilots take off, fly for some amount of time, and then like the other 2 pilots are sleeping or resting, and they come down and take over flying the plane, and either finish the trip out while the other 2 pilots above sleep, or they change again if it's a really long flight.
I imagine piloting a plane has got to be very boring for the majority of the ride.
What they say is that aviation is hours of boredom punctuated with seconds of terror.
I think I've heard you say that before, but I can only imagine. All right. I want to get into some of these misconceptions. Yeah. Did you I'll just start on the top here? Nothing exciting, just general misconceptions. So the conception that cutting a worm in half doesn't kill it, and then you have 2 living worms. You heard this one before?
Yes.
Not accurate at all. You cut the worm in half of it dies. The other half typically lives on.
Yeah.
I assume you must be Googling something of your own, because
No. I've got a few notes, and I've also got the research department up.
All right, wonderful. On not quite a misconception, no, but when you give yourself a glass of water before you go to sleep, you set it like next to your bed.
No,
You don't. Oh, a lot of people do that. All right.
I've got a water bottle in like next to my desk, which is near my bed, but usually I'll just sleep through the night, and if I'm thirsty, like I might like reach over to the water bottle or walk over to the sink and have a drink.
Plastic water bottle.
Yes.
All right. So Now, if you leave a glass of water like on the table for a day, will you just drink it at the end of the day, or you always dump it and refill it?
Depends
What does it depend on?
how ambitious I'm feeling.
Well, a lot of people once they leave water out, they don't return back to the water. They're afraid because the glass has got some bubbles on the inside, almost like a reverse condensation. And people are worried that the water's gone bad.
No. The water will taste off, but do you know the reason for that?
The gases inside the water evaporate.
You're right about gases, but it goes the other way. So air has a fair bit of carbon dioxide in it. And the carbon dioxide will react with the water and form carbonic acid. And so that's why water exposed to air for a long time tastes different than water that's been sealed away. It's slightly more acidic with carbonic acid.
Okay, I thought it was some of the chlorine evaporating in the water.
That could actually be part of it as well. It depends on where you're getting water. But even if you were to take like a glass of like spring water or distilled water that has no chlorine in it, like if you leave it out for, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours, it'll taste different than a freshly poured glass from like the same jug because of the carbonic acid in the air. The carbon dioxide in the air makes carbonic acid in the water.
Okay. Interesting. But yeah, I just think it's funny that people will say, "Oh, my water's bad." Now I get it if you got a dusty household or maybe you got some pets or something. And there's some fur on the top of the water, but I don't usually have a problem just drinking in old water. Sometimes I just glance at it. I'm like, the top of the water looks good. Cheers. What are you drinking, by the way?
I'm actually breaking the first rule of SipTalk, and I'm just having a Coke. I had a bit too much to drink last night, so like my body says, no, don't do alcohol.
A little drink might not hurt you. All right, fortune cookie. Where's it from?
Japan.
The Japanese Americans introduced that to the U.S. culture.
Yeah, the misconception is China.
Yeah.
All right. So this one really grinds my gears.
Grinding the gears.
Marilyn Monroe was not a size 12.
Okay.
There's a lot, like you hear this all the time where like people say that like if Marilyn Monroe was a model today, she'd be a plus size model. No, she wouldn't. By modern standards, she probably wore what it would be about a size 2 dress.
I was going to guess 2 or 3. So that, I mean, I've never seen Marilyn Monroe in person. I imagine there's probably a wax museum or two, which
yeah. Well, I mean, she'd fit into like a 00 or less right now.
Well, that's because clothes are getting.
No, that's because she's dead.
Well, clothes are getting bigger. So,
Well,
did I tell you the time I went to Japan? I went to Uniqlo. You know the store Uniqlo.
Mm-hmm.
And I had recently bought a bunch of undershirts at a Uniqlo in Midtown Manhattan. I was like, all right.
Well, Japan sizes are different than U.S. sizes.
Oh no shit! I just got a medium here. I got a medium there. And it was like I didn't try them on. I was like, oh, I'm here. I could use an undershirt. I'll just grab 4 of them just because they're.
Yeah, the medium were probably like an extra small.
It was like super narrow. Yeah, very very small shirt.
Yeah, because I ordered a hoodie from an eBay seller, and it was in Japanese size, and I got a large. I was like, all right, I'll go up a size because I normally wear mediums. Mediums are smalls. Yeah, I got a large, and it's smaller than like a small would be.
Yeah, that is strange. What else you got on your factoids there?
You only use 10% of your brain.
So it's my understanding that you are almost always using many different parts of your brain.
It's my understanding that anybody who says you only use 10% of your brain, it applies to them. but they're special cases. Like you use 100% of your brain, though not typically all at the same time.
Well, exactly. Not all at one time, but there's different parts of the brain are active all at different times, and you're not only using 10% of your brain. Where did that come from?
Probably sci-fi shows where people are like, oh, unlock all this potential that you have of like being able to move objects or
I know there's some sci-fi movie where I think it was like a Scarlett Johansson movie or something, where they're like, oh yeah, we unlocked the ability for her. She took a pill and now she can use 20% of her brain. And as that ability increases, shit gets crazy. And then she gets to like 75% of brain usage and she can move shit with her mind.
Yeah. Real quick, while we're on a little like in between topics, if anybody out there has some misconceptions that grind their gears, we want to hear about them.
Yeah, what are some common misconceptions that that grind your gears, as James likes to say? It's funny. I got off the train today and I heard this noise and I was like, it sounds like gears grinding. And then I was like, that's James' phrase, grinds your gears. the phrase grinds your gears grinds my gears.
Okay.
All right, so I got another one. People think microwaves cook food from the inside out, which
Nope.
I had a third grade teacher, and she said, I put a cup of coffee in the microwave for my husband, and then I gave him a straw to drink the coffee, which I thought was very strange to begin with. And she said he took a sip and he said, "Ow, that burnt my mouth." And she realized because the straw was in the middle of it was at the bottom in the middle of the drink, and microwaves cook things from the inside out. And I remember thinking in third grade, I thought heat rises, and that would have worked itself out by the time he got the cup. And also, who drinks coffee with a straw? But
Yeah.
but I learned in this that microwaves aren't really able to basically permeate most of your food, so it can cook about a centimeter into it, and then it's just kind of internal radiation, I guess. That
Yeah, you've got a hot outside that just radiates the temperature in, just like how heat transfers.
yeah, exactly. All right, what else you got there? We're running through these a little more quickly than I thought we would.
No, that's fine. I got tons of them.
You probably
blood
looked at it. Probably looking at the
this-
same list I am. So,
It could be. Blood is blue until it touches air. Completely wrong.
and what is wrong about that?
The fact that blood isn't blue.
What color would blood be then?
What color do you think it is?
Well, it's my understanding that blood is red, and the less oxygen it has, the bluer it becomes.
Completely wrong.
Okay, so
The less like oxygenated blood is going to be a lighter red, kind of like a reddish orange. And then as it gets less and less oxygen, it becomes a deeper red, like a deeper crimson. But
yeah,
it's red throughout. Blood will never be blue.
yeah,
If blood is blue, then either you're a victim of a horrible prank or a horrible illness.
yeah. I guess that makes sense. That's not
Or
something
silver poisoning.
Yeah, I've read about that where people can actually turn blue.
Yeah, but that's silver poisoning, and there's other problems that come along with it.
Yeah. I got another one for you. That coffee comes from coffee beans, when in fact coffees come from there's a berry, and the seed of the berry is what we know as the coffee bean, and that seed is roasted and then ground.
Well, yeah, but that's kind of more of like we call a seed a bean, and like in the same way that like we call tomatoes vegetables sometimes, even though they're technically a fruit.
Yeah. Yeah. But also on the bean note, that a peanut is not an actual nut, but it's a legume.
Yeah, there's all these like botanical classifications that like if you want to be pedantic matter, but like if you call a peanut a nut, like if someone says actually it's a legume, that's them telling you that you don't need to hang out with them.
I think there's a lot of things like that on this list here. All right. You owe me one, actually. I got a good one.
This one's good, actually, and I didn't know this until today when I looked it up. Chicago is the Windy City.
Yes.
So that part's true. Like we know the name of it, but do you know why it's called the Windy City? I'll give you a hint. It's not the weather, which is what I would have thought.
I would have thought it had something to do with wind.
Yeah, that's what you would think.
Unless it's been the windy city, and we've always,
No,
been mispronouncing it.
no.
Misreading it.
The reason why it's the windy city is for its politicians.
No shit, really?
Yes.
I had because they're easily swayed.
No, I think it was just because this was coined in like the 19th century, and apparently they just had bloviating politicians that just wouldn't shut
windy.
up.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. That makes sense. Oh no, my I'm not charging here on my my stream. Oh well, we'll see how that goes. All right, I got another good one for you. Actually, because I just reconnected the stream here, I'll give you two. That flies don't only live 24 hours. I guess
Some do.
Well, some may, but most general house flies you live for a week or so, and some a little bit more. And I always wondered, they said flies live only for 24 hours, but then sometimes you see those like really, really big ones. And it's not like
like the horse flies?
Yeah.
Those things are the worst, man.
Yep. Yeah, it's not like they were just born that morning and they just grew that fast during the day. They've been around for a little while. All right, so and this had me because I'd heard it before and I just kind of believed it, but I would never have presented it. Just like most of this, I never would have presented it to someone as a fact because it just wouldn't have. There was no logic to it. But I was once told that fucking A. We're losing our connection here. I was once told that toilets in the southern hemisphere, the whirlpool of the toilet flush goes the other direction.
So that's a bad one because what causes what causes the whirlpool of the toilet flush is basically just the direction that the water releases. Is
it basically the direction of the jets or whatever the holes are?
In order for the Earth's rotation to start having an effect, you need to start getting onto like mesoscale levels. So something like once you get to the size of like a small city or a small state, then it makes a difference. But like it's like weather systems, sure.
I was going to say hurricanes go the other direction, but not a toilet flush. So
yeah.
All right, what else you got there?
This one always bothers me when people talk about going on like a detox diet, where like if you eat or drink this thing, it'll like remove toxins from your body. Like you already have 2 organs at least whose job it is to do that all the time anyways. Drinking or eating something isn't going to change that process.
Well, I would think that the more water you consume and the more sweating you do would help with that. But
no, not really. You as long as you have like a normal hydration level and you don't have a disease or something, then your kidneys and your liver are going to function just like any other time. There's this just nebulous idea of toxins, and people think that by eating or drinking this or that, they'll be removing toxins. And if you say, well, what specific toxins, what compounds in the body are you looking to eliminate? That usually trips them up.
Well, yeah, like alcohol or something like that.
Alcohol gets eliminated like from the moment you take your first drink, your body is in the process of eliminating it. As soon as it reaches your bloodstream, your liver starts working to remove it.
But I would imagine that your metabolism could maybe speed that up somehow.
Not really, because your liver has kind of a set capacity as to how fast it can eliminate.
But you don't think some of it just gets pissed out? It all has to pass through the liver?
I suppose that if you were to drink enough that you have so much volume going through that it could make it to like that it would get picked up by your kidneys and just get passed out. I don't know. But like the idea of like going on some kind of a detox diet, what are these toxins you were speaking of?
Yeah, and I'm with you there. So I got this one: Mount Everest being the tallest mountain in the world.
It depends on what you measure.
Exactly. So Everest is the highest above sea level, but from the base of the mountain to the peak of the mountain, it is the not the highest mountain in that respect, and that's Mauna
Mm,
Kea.
Mauna Kea? I would have thought that it would have
Yeah,
been like the Marianas Trench and then like wherever it goes up to land. But you can get into the weeds in terms of what your definition of a mountain is in the same way that like where do you say where a mountain begins and where a mountain ends?
true, true. And on that note, that the Earth is a perfect sphere, and this is uh, there's two aspects of this. So obviously, the Earth isn't a perfect sphere because it has mountains and valleys, but two, because the Earth is spinning, it actually bulges more around the equator.
Yeah, I
So,
don't remember what the distance is in terms of like from the North Pole to the center of the Earth and from the equator to the center of the Earth, what the difference is.
but it would be shorter from the North Pole to the
Yeah,
center of the Earth. Um, but I have
I want
heard
to
that
look it up now.
if you were to reduce the size of the Earth to that of a cue ball, that it would actually be smoother than the cue ball.
Oh, by a lot.
So that's go ahead.
Difference is 22 kilometers. You are
Holy.
22 kilometers closer to the center of the Earth at the North Pole than you are at the equator.
So that would mean that you weigh more on the North Pole and have a greater amount of gravity pulling down on you.
Yeah, I think so.
And you would weigh less. Oh, you know what? Maybe it would be the centrifugal force, or
No, that's
yeah.
not that factor.
All right. What else you got in your list there?
Um, you already took one of mine, which was the fortune cookies.
Okay.
Hold on, I'm looking up the gravity. So equator. So the effective acceleration of the poles. So if you weighed 100 pounds at the North Pole on a scale, at the equator you would weigh 99.65 pounds. So you'd weigh 5 ounces less.
Interesting.
It looks
How,
like about a 0.5%.
however, your mass would be the same.
Well, yeah, because mass is just a measure of how many like molecules you have on you.
Yeah, you
Um,
have on you.
look, I wasn't a science major. Don't kill me here.
Uh,
Oh, here's another one that really bothers me is saying like blank race has more muscles in name body part area. So like
yeah,
I've heard black people have extra muscles in their calves or their thighs. No. Or like Asian women have more muscles in their groin. No.
is that not true? Either one of those?
Both of those are 100% untrue.
Hmm.
Everyone has the same number of muscles barring birth defects or injuries.
I now I don't know where I'm getting. I don't know the validity of these details, but I have one that says penny spins are always random, and it says that actually the head side of the penny is heavier, making
Yeah,
it slightly more
it's a
likely.
yeah. If you flip a coin, there's a ever so slight bias towards the head side.
Meaning you're more likely to get a tails up.
I don't
Heads,
remember. I don't
heads.
remember which is biased, but like
Well,
there's a bias
this
to
is
a
saying
penny.
heads is heavier, so I'd imagine the
Yeah,
heavier
but
side.
it's like the difference between like 50.00 and 50.01 or 001.
Yeah. Well, if you flip it enough times, that really matters. And if you just got to bet on it, guess tails. Be the pessimist there. All right, so this is one that drives me nuts, and I just like to I like to look at the item and kind of decide for myself. But that food expiration dates mean anything. So it depends on the food, but especially if it's a perishable. But if it's like pasta or a lot of canned foods, a lot of the times it can last a hell of a lot longer than whatever that date is.
Here's another one that bothers me. Most cases of obesity are not related to having a slow metabolism.
What could it be? Caloric consumption.
It's caloric consumption and caloric exertion.
Yeah, that is no surprise.
That certainly there are some people that have a medical condition that causes them to have a really low metabolism and make it difficult for them to lose weight, but the vast majority, no.
Yeah, it's I that makes sense. Yeah, but maybe they're racing to eat all the food before it expires. We just need to get this fact out to people that
You know what?
that can
On
wait.
that topic, actually, there's a company, a dairy company, that has stopped printing expiration dates on its milk because people like to try and like lower food waste.
Milk's a tough one. I usually the milk date is the sell by date.
Yeah, but
And
it's good for several days after that.
I used to work at this gym where we made protein shakes, and they would toss the milk at the sell by date. And I tried to convince them. They're like, "No, we have to toss it." I'm like, "Well, can I just take it then?" So I would take it home, and at least 3 or 4 days after that, it would be good. And these are especially back in the days when I was one, consuming a lot more protein, and then two, considerably more broke. So the milk and the protein from the milk definitely good. And there was a couple of times where I drank some really rancid bad milk. So that
Well, yeah, you're not helping your case much.
no, I'm not helping my case, but we're talking well beyond the 3 or 4 days of the sell by day. We're looking like, I wasn't thinking at all. I didn't look at it. But a lot of spices, they say, you can still use the spices. They kind of lose their potency, but they're still going to have some flavor. And if you got like some oregano or some rosemary or something, and you give it kind of like the fresh grind in your palm there, and then throw it on your food, it's going to taste just as good as if you just sprinkled it in like normal. All right, another eating one. Waiting an hour to swim after eating. They say there's no real proof that you get cramps. Now
Well, that's one that actually does depend on your metabolism.
well, I would think that what it has to do is with your body exerting the energy and the blood to your stomach and digestive system. So if you eat a heavy meal, you're not going to have as much blood in the rest of your body.
Yeah, but
Your
like,
stomach is processing.
have you ever
food.
gone for a run too soon after you ate, and you get that side stitch?
No, I never got that. I could feel the weight of the food in my stomach, but I never got any stitches in my stomach, any cramps, that were at all related to eating when running.
Oh, I've had that. Like, at this point, I don't really eat anything more than if I go for a run, I wait at least 2 hours after eating because I'll get cramps otherwise.
Yeah, I don't have that problem. What else you got there?
I don't know. This is one that we've kind of addressed a little bit, but like, vaccines don't cause autism.
Yeah, that's
Japanese animation does.
all right, let's see.
Oh, I got another one. This one's another
right.
really bothersome one. Is that like that you know the tongue map, where
Yes.
sweet, sour, spicy, or whatever? That's bullshit. All parts of your tongue can taste all flavors. The only difference is like you have different densities of taste buds in some parts of your tongue, but that just means like how sensitive you are to all things in one place or another. But it's not like you have some taste buds that can taste one thing and some taste buds that can taste another.
Yeah, I always, when I learned that in like health class or something in elementary school or middle school, I didn't agree with it either. So
yeah, it's bullshit.
All right, I got a cat purring always means they are pleased.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily exactly. It could mean they're hungry, they're stressed.
In pain.
They could be in pain. Yeah.
And sometimes they also will do it sometimes when they're like very afraid.
Yeah, which is very strange. So, Everybody has just always assumed that a cat purring means they're ecstatic and they're very happy and very comfortable.
My roommate's cat also does that when she's curious. Like when she's looking at something new, like she'll purr really loud.
Yeah. So yeah, it says it's a multifaceted form of communication.
Did you know that cats domesticated themselves?
No, I did not know that, but that
Because like with dogs, like we had to like capture them and like eventually like breed them into like
breed the
domestic
most
cat. Yeah,
submissive of them.
yeah. Cats realized that they could just get a free ride. They're like, you know what? We're just gonna dupe these people into giving us a house and food.
They gotta explain to the raccoons, like, hey dummy, like, what are you doing? Just try to be a little more friendly. Don't be so skittish. I got another one. Leaving your phone charging after it's reached 100% will damage the battery. And what they're saying is that with today's batteries and smart technology, smart devices, that the charger will not give it kind of a constant charge. So it's not bad for the batteries. All right. How about shaving makes your hair thicker?
Yeah, I don't see why that would be true.
Well, it's been said to be true for a really long time, and I've heard it kind of.
Well, it's also like if you pull out one gray hair, like 7 more will come.
Is that true?
I don't think so.
I pulled them all out and nothing happened. So I actually have a lot of gray hair.
This is a crazy one. This is like have you heard of fan death?
Is it like an Asian fear of fans?
Korean.
Strictly Korean?
I mean, I'm sure that there's other places that believe it, but it's most like commonly associated with South Korea, where like sleeping in a closed room with a running fan, you will suffocate because the fan somehow like sucks the air away from you or something. I don't really understand it, but it's not true.
Well, certain cultures many years ago, probably hundreds of years, well, over 100 years ago, believed that having your picture taken stole your soul.
Yeah, I think that might be a Native American belief.
Yeah,
and I think they had plenty of reason to distrust white people by that point.
fair enough. How about Christopher Columbus discovered America?
Well, that's such a Eurocentric view. Like it was already here and people were living here, but somehow he discovered it.
Yeah, right. But also, I guess Leif Erikson.
Yeah, like 500 years before that.
Yeah, roughly. How about, when we're running a little low on time, but how about schizophrenia, meaning multiple personality disorder?
No, multiple personality disorder means
multiple personality. Is multiple personality. Yeah. Schizophrenia involves disordered thoughts, psychosis, and delusion.
Yeah. That's, I think, a Hollywood problem where like they created that.
I'll buy that. I guess that might be the best way to depict schizophrenia. How about this? OCD means that someone is extremely tidy and organized.
No, they could just because hoarders are actually, that's like a form of OCD.
Yeah, it's
if you've ever been in a hoarder's place, you wouldn't describe it as organized.
Yeah, so it's obsessive compulsive disorder, meaning that you feel compulsed to do something obsessively, but it does not necessarily mean clean, disinfect, wash your windows.
It can, like some people are like that, but
it very often manifests itself that way. But there are many other ways that it can manifest itself. So hoarding. I wasn't aware that was an example, but it sounds enough in line to me. What else you got?
Hit all the ones on my list.
How about so I learned that Napoleon wasn't as crazy short as he would have said to have been.
Well, they were all way short back then.
Well, this is what I'm hearing, was that he was 5'2" in French feet, but in English feet, that would have made him 5'7".
Which is actually probably pretty tall for the era.
I would imagine that would be a reasonably average height.
Because have you ever been to like a colonial village in like the Northeast in like Massachusetts or wherever, a reconstructed colonial village?
Yeah, and all the doorways are much lower.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever been in a sports car from the 50s or 60s?
I mean, I had the Miata, which is basically the same size.
Yeah.
I had the Miata with the seat all the way back. I'm 6 foot tall. The only and it's not because I wanted to be like slinked back and driving. It was like, this is what I have to do to be in a comfortable driving position.
Yeah. All right, what else you got here? What else you got?
Consulting the research department.
All right. Well, look, we can wrap. I wanted to talk about some funny misconceptions. I definitely think we hit a handful of them. Nothing striking. Nothing.
Oh, I got one more.
All right.
You know when your hands prune up from water?
Yes.
What causes that?
I don't know what causes it, but I understand there's an added utility of that happening. But what causes it?
So what's the all right?
The added utility is better grip.
Yeah, because you've got more surface area to the. All right, so a lot of people think it's because your skin absorbs the water and wrinkles up, and it's actually a central nervous response. So if you know somebody who has like nerve damage in a hand, like you'll see that like if they've got nerve damage in these 2 fingers, they won't wrinkle up, and the other 3 fingers will.
No shit.
Yeah.
Very interesting. All right. Well, look, let's end here. But I do want to say, for those crazy people that are making all the comments about fires, there's a lot of bad things for you to spend your energy on. Lay off a little bit. But also, if you want to help the victims of the Bronx fire or any fire, donating goods is a much better way to spend your energy than complaining on Twitter and attacking other people who are interested in making comments. And this time I said nothing, even though I wanted to say something. I said absolutely nothing. I just sat there quietly, read the comments.
Well, with the exception of insulting Ted Cruz, has flaming somebody on Twitter ever really accomplished anything?
Well, it gets people canceled. It's which you seem to be more for than me, but
I'm very much for it.
Yeah, well, we just lost our Instagram stream. So for those of you guys who have watched the show for a while, we're at the end of the show, so we're just
speaking of canceled, I guess.
But we're playing with the setup. We mentioned this last episode that you can catch us live on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. We are traditionally live on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, which we still are today. But we're playing with the setup a little bit, so it's
let's try and get more people to migrate over to YouTube and Twitch. It's a better platform. It's easier for us to interact with you.
Yeah, well, that is the place to catch us live Tuesdays and Thursday nights, 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. And on that, we're past our regular allotted time. So I will bid you a good evening.
All right, laters.
Adios.
All right, that concludes this episode of SipTalk. Thank you guys for joining. As you heard, we are trying to switch up our streaming. So if you want to catch us live, you want to throw in some comments, catch us on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. But the best places are YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook, actually. So catch you guys next time. Thank you, as always, for joining.
I like PBR. I just got priced out of it.